Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Knesset coming to you from the home studio today on this, the 20th day of June in the year 2023. Sure hope you're enjoying your Tuesday, no matter where it is you are in the country. We're a little late today. Thought we'd give it a try later on in the day instead of at 1:30 in the afternoon. So to everybody who is joining us, thank you very much for doing that. I always appreciate all the wonderful people who join me on a regular basis. You could be doing so many other things, but instead you give us the time, and I am very, very grateful to all of you for that. As we do each and every Tuesday, we bring you this week's news, but before we get to the news this week, I kind of want to do a little bit of a commentary today about something that happened late last week. And if you're looking at the screen right now on the left-hand side, you will see a mangled mess of a vehicle crash that took place on the Garden State Parkway on May 26th, right around the 117 exit in Homedale. And that's the exit that you take for Route 35 and 36. And we have this picture because one of Kearney's police officers, Detective Anthony Nunez, was on his way back to Kearney from a ceremony in South Jersey where Detective Jordy Jean was graduating from the state police training course for crime scene investigation. And when he was on his way up north, he left at about 3 o'clock. He happened upon this scene at about 3:15 on that day, on the 26th of May. And you can see how bad that situation is. But what he came upon was right after this incident happened, and he actually saw a good portion of it happen. And unfortunately, this poor woman who was driving in that vehicle was thrown from it, and she hit that center median that you can see right there, which is completely metallic in nature. And when he got there, she was bleeding profusely. Really, really grotesque and very, very awful situation that Anthony Nunez found himself in. So he got out of the car and went over to the woman, and she was screaming in utter agony from the pain that she was in. I guess the shock hadn't even hit her yet, so she was in such pain, screaming, and she was bleeding really badly at that point in time. And he knew he had to basically stop the bleeding, tie it off, or she was going to bleed out right there on the scene. But when he first arrived, he realized he didn't have a belt on, so there was no way to tie it off that way. But lo and behold, of all fortunate things, he was off duty at the time, but he happened to be wearing a tie because he was at the graduation for Jordy. And he took the tie off, and he tied off the bleeding, I think, on her leg, and it stopped. And thank God it did, because she probably would have been dead right there on the scene that very day. And so when the state trooper got on the scene and the paramedics eventually, a couple of minutes later down the line, I think it was the medic who told him, or maybe it was one of the troopers, I can't remember off the top of my head, that his actions that day, that moment, by tying off the bleeding with his tie, probably saved her from bleeding out right there. Now, unfortunately, Anthony didn't know her last name, so he wasn't able to find out what happened afterwards. But there's no doubt that from that awful carnage that you see on the screen, she was able to get treated on the scene and brought to a hospital for treatment where she had a chance to survive. And the reason I bring this up is because if you don't know Anthony, you should. I knew him before he became a cop. He was a pharmacy technician at Midtown Pharmacy for a couple of years. Some of you may even remember him from those days. And he's always a great kid. And then he becomes a cop. And on his very first day as a police officer, he saved a choking baby from suffocating to death. On his very first day as a police officer, very first shift he saved a baby's life. So this is nothing new to him. He has saved lives before. And we were so enamored by the story when we found out about it that it's in this week's paper. And this is the type of kid who is just not. He just will do whatever he has to save somebody, and it's not the first time. It certainly won't be the last. He is what is called a black cloud. The black cloud cops and first responders are the ones who, no matter what, always seem to be around when bad things happen. There's white clouds who always seem to escape carnage, fires or shootings and things of that nature. But Nunez is known as a black cloud. But in a way, that's a good thing because when he springs into action, he always comes through. So great job for Anthony Nunez saving this woman's life more than likely at this scene. We hope she made it. I wish there was a way to find out what happened afterwards, but there just isn't because nobody seems to know what her last name is. That was a horrible thing, I think, for anybody to have to come upon and see. And again, it was on the 26th day of May, not too long ago. They were coming back from South Jersey from Jordy's graduation, and more than likely, he saved a life. And you know what else, too? What I didn't tell you before was that he saved another life, too. He was in a bar with his girlfriend after a Rangers game. We won't hold that against him, that he's a Rangers fan, but he is. He's a diehard Ranger fan, and everybody has their burdens in life. But he saved this woman who was overdosing. She was sitting at the bar, and she collapsed to the floor. And he said he just sprung into action that day, too, and went and he did sternum rubs and chest compressions and saved her, not even with Narcan. So, wherever tragedy seems to be, he finds a way there, and when he does, he springs into action and saves a life. So great job from Detective Anthony Nunez of our own Kearney Police Department. We move on to this week's paper, and on the front page of this week's edition, the headline is Seniors in the Building. There's a little Elvis reference there because Carol Jean Doyle, the councilwoman who has been running this for 27 years over at the Doyle Pavilion, not named for her, it's for her father-in-law, so you can relax about that. They had an Elvis impersonator show up, and I think it was Councilwoman Mary Trine DeCastro who was responsible for that. And there were hundreds of seniors there, and everybody had a great time, as they do each and every year at this event. There's raffles and all sorts of things that go on. So you see the photo of Elvis. There's a whole bunch of seniors there enjoying the food. And then there's Ed Shea, too, enjoying the day. Ed is there every year as a volunteer. He really enjoys what he does. He's a great guy, works for the county, but takes the day off to volunteer at the picnic. And there was a whole bunch of volunteers there from members of the town council. I saw a good number of members of the council who were there, firefighters, police officers who were there as well. And the councilwoman puts on a fantastic program each and every year. And there wasn't one during COVID in 2020, and I'm not sure about 2021, but there was definitely one in 2022. But a great day, indeed, for all of Kearney's senior citizens. And I think you have to be 55 or older to get in now, which is kind of scary because I am getting too close to that age. My Uncle Mike Slane is here with us. He is in, of course, Carlsbad, California, which is right outside of San Diego. Uncle Mike was in Jersey. Got to see him this weekend. We had a lot of chili dogs from Jersey City. Pete's Hot Dogs over by North Hudson Park. I could go for one of those right now. Uncle, it's good to see you. I'm glad you made it home safely, especially given that you were flying on Spirit Airlines to get there. So I'm glad you are home. Hope there wasn't as much turbulence going home as there was on your way in. He said he had a lot of turbulence. Captain Tim Wagner, as he does each and every week, has this week's Police Blotter. And the main story this week is about a bunch of teenagers who were arrested for smoking pot in a vape in the old West Hudson Hospital parking garage. Let me just say this about Captain Wagner, too. You know, I I brag about the police information officers that I get to work with. I get to work with about 5 of them on a regular basis. And Tim is great because he writes the blotter for me. I don't even have to sit down. It comes, and generally speaking, 99.9% of the time, it's in camera-ready form, which means I don't even have to edit the grammar. That's how good he is at what he does. And I want to say thank you to him for all of the hard work that he puts in putting this blotter together each and every week. And I know that the people of Kearney love reading this, and unfortunately sometimes it's for all the wrong reasons because everybody wants to see who got arrested if they know anybody who got arrested. But Tim works very hard on this. He takes it very seriously, and he makes my job so easy to do. So thank you, Timmy, for that. Also on page number 2 in the corner, you'll see a photo, and this is of the annual awarding of PBA scholarships. They did this, Officer Vanessa Sevillano and her crew did this together a couple of weeks ago, and we have a photograph of the 3 recipients. I think I see Court Montanino, I see Matt Lopez in there, Ryan Brady also. They are members of the committee, and they were there for the photo opportunity in front of Kearney High School. So congrats to the winners, and good job on that scholarship that gets out every year to Kearney High School graduating seniors. That's the story from Detective Nunez that I mentioned before. That's what that vehicle looks like. Those things are crazy. I can't even imagine getting into one of those. Now, Laura Compton is a teacher at Washington Middle School. She's an art teacher. She is an excellent art teacher. She's an excellent artist, and she's also a wonderful writer. And she pulled together this story very, very quickly about the summer reading program in Harrison. Okay. When I was that age, in middle school, 11, 12 years old, the last thing I wanted to do was read, ever. Unfortunately, it's a habit that's stuck with me all these years. I'm not much of a reader, as I know a few of you also are. But let me tell you this. In Harrison, they love this summer reading program. The kids get excited about it, and they have a kickoff to the program every year. And you can see Superintendent of Schools Maureen Krug is in there, and a bunch of the kids, and the teacher who handles the program as well. And Laura wrote about it, and it's on page number 4, and I hope you'll check it out. It's a wonderful program in the town of Harrison that they do. And anytime you can get kids to be excited about reading in the summertime, let alone during the school year, you know you have done something well. This is big news because the 2023-24 What season has been announced. Brandy Lee Miller and the gang over at WHATCo at the new theater at the former Holy Cross School in Harrison. They have a very ambitious schedule planned for 2023-24. And some of the shows are listed in the story this week. I hope you'll check that out. What is doing phenomenal work right now in West Hudson. They are kicking butt, to say the very least. Brandy Lee and her crew are doing phenomenal work, and you all know because I've spoken about how great the acting is, and 2 of my dear friends are involved. John Branwell, of course, and George Rex, whose name I can't say, even though you know he used to write for us here at The Observer, but his stage name is George Rex, and when you're SAG-AFTRA, you got to use those stage names for non-SAG-AFTRA performances, so you know they do such a great job over there. They really do. So check it out. Find out what's going on this year. I wrote an editorial this week about the movie Field of Dreams. I've never seen it, and we discussed it in last week's newspaper because of the god-awful, unfortunate early death of our dear friend Jim Haig, and he wrote a column back in 1989 about the movie Field of Dreams. I finally got to see it this past weekend. Tremendous movie. Obviously, I'm not going to give you a boring recap of a movie that's, all these years old. But it reminded me of Haig, obviously, and the relationship he had with his dad, and also Tony Azzardo. two of my friends, dear friends, who died in the last couple of weeks. And I certainly think the two of them are probably in heaven right now, playing catch with each other. I just miss them both so much. It's hard for me to even say that. So, I miss you, Jimmy. I miss you, Tony. And that's in this week's editorial. Brandy Lee Miller is here with us tonight. Thank you, Brandy Lee Miller. Thank you so much for that. Our support is easy because you make it so easy. And all the incredible things that you do, everybody involved with the Board of Trustees, the people who try out for the shows, who audition for the shows, all the people behind the scenes. And you have just been on this incredible role. It's so good to see, and I just hope and pray that it continues throughout 2023 and 24. Thank you for popping by today. The North Arlington Knights of Columbus, they recently had their state convention, and there were plenty of awards given out, so I hope you'll check that out. And this week, our own Jason Bernstein has 4 sports stories. Usually we have 3. There is one story about a flag football game that was played, All-Stars, girls flag football. Yes, this is happening. Julia Todsman is doing great things in Lyndhurst. This kid Vega from Harrison played in a North-South game. He's from Harrison. He's doing a wonderful job, a great football player, and you see him there with Ray Lucas, the former New York Jet. And then there's also one final story as well about these 3 kids who from Belleville played in the Robeson Classic, which is one of the big end-of-year football games for high school football. Of course, in this week's paper we have, you see here, this is an ad for Mid Realty, and that's the jump of Anthony Nunez. Classified, there are 2 pages. If you want something to buy, if you need a place to rent, if you are looking for work to be done in your house, please check out the classifieds. 2 almost full pages this week on pages 16 and 17. A lot of stuff going on. Oh, and this is really cool, too. Mike Perrone is the president of the Belleville Historical Society, and all he does is volunteer work. It's unbelievable. I don't know how the man sleeps. And they are restoring monuments all over the place. On page 6, there was a photo of the Kearney World War II monument as well. Work was done there. Mike Perrone is one of the nicest people you're ever going to find. And he's doing it not just in Belleville. He's doing it everywhere in North Jersey. And we thank him for all the dedication that he shows to the people of this area, not just, again, in Belleville. It is 48 minutes past the hour. Canessa here with you on the Observer Live. That is going to do it for this week's edition of the program. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending 20 minutes with me today. I hope you're all enjoying this beautiful day, and I hope that the rest of the week is great for you. Don't forget, if anything comes up during the course of the week, we'll join you live when it happens. If not, we will be back 1 week from today, maybe even at this time again. I kind of like doing it at nighttime, so we'll see what happens. I'll talk to Lisa about that, but we will let you know. So from the home studio today, Kevin Canessa signing off for now. And again, thanks to Mike, my uncle, Mugga, and Brandy Lee, and to everybody here. And we hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Good night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.